What is good, everybody? Welcome to another crossover podcast here on the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Network. I am Rob Stats Guerrero. If you are new to the show, this is where we take a deep dive on the 49ers opponent of the week with someone that covers the team inside and out. This week, I am very pleased and privileged to bring you Mr. Dan Viens. Dan, how are you, sir?
I'm excellent. I'm a little surprised you invited me on your show because having you on my show the last couple of years before these games, you're undefeated. Your team is undefeated in those instances. So I feel like you're kind of messing with the universe a little bit here by having me on.
Look, I need to change something with how the 49ers season is going. So that means talking with you. By the way, I should mention Dan covers the Seahawks for the Seahawks Forever podcast and YouTube channel. You should definitely go and check that out. But
appreciate that.
Let's just start with this, Dan. Who had the worst loss last week, the 49ers or the Seahawks?
Yeah, if you take the old Jim Harbaugh, the famous saying he has, it's, I guess this week for both teams, it would be who has it worse than us, right? Who would have thought when you saw this on the schedule, week 6, Thursday night football at Lumen Field under the lights, that both teams would be reeling right now the way that they were. I thought the whole storyline this first part of the season was 49ers establishing themselves as the class of the NFC, as we all expected. And then the question with the Seahawks would be how much, if any, ground have they made up with the coaching changes and some of the new personnel that they've imported. And here we are. And they're both struggling and trying to find themselves and trying to stay relevant and stay in a playoff race. It's not what I was expecting.
No, it's not what either of us are expecting. Let's start with the positive, though, okay? The uniforms. The uniform matchup is an all-time good uniform matchup. Niners going throwbacks, Seahawks going throwbacks. At least we can feel good about that.
It's so funny to me that when these uniforms were the Seahawks uniforms, I didn't love them. They weren't great, but it's a different world we live in now. We don't have the neck rolls. The shoulder pads are almost non-existent. Everything's all tight and stretchy. And it's unbelievable how good they look and how much they've caught on here, to the point that even Sunday against the Giants at Lumen Field, I would say for the first time, maybe, I think it was more than 50-50 that you saw more fans in the stands wearing the throwbacks as opposed to the uniforms they've worn for the last 10, 12 years. So really clean look. Of course, the 49ers is, of course, and I'm glad they're doing this on national TV.
Yeah, I like those 94 throwbacks, man. Those are my favorite 49ers uniforms of all time. But they certainly didn't play like the 94 team last week. In fact, they were downright hideous against the Cardinals in a game that they very clearly should have won. I can't even explain the compounding plays that the 49ers made, just continual losing plays over and over, missing blocks, missing assignments on defense, fumbling the football, turning it over. It was a bad operation from top to bottom. So if you're expecting to see like the Kyle Shanahan 49ers, this is not them. That's not the group that's showing up at Lumen Field tomorrow.
I feel like you just described the Seahawks the last 3 weeks. It's remarkable how similar they are in their struggles coming into this game. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. Even with the loss of Christian McCaffrey, Javon Hargrave, and some of the other guys that are banged up there, it's the number of blue chip players the 49ers have eclipses probably every other team in the NFC. And I thought it would be enough to weather the storm. It's surprising to me. And then to hear, some of your fan base and even guys such as yourself, frustrated and questioning some of the coaching decisions is very un-49er like.
Yeah, well, let me just throw this out there for you, okay? Because you are in a very similar position to where the 49ers were in 2017, right? You've got the young, I'm throwing it up on the stream now. There's Mike Macdonald, your head coach. He's the young, hip, smart, cool play caller and the new leader of your franchise. And you're figuring it out. It's his first year as a head coach, right?
Right.
Awesome. And more power to you. Great. But I just got to tell you, here's your future, okay? Your future is Kyle Shanahan and where he is right now. See, look, this was the young, cool, hip head coach. Now he's grizzled. He's got the gray in the beard.
It comes at you fast, man. I can tell you that.
He's aged like a president. All right.
Yeah.
This is your future. That is what happens when you go through some stuff. And the 49ers are going through some stuff right now. They could not tackle James Conner in the second half of that game against Arizona. And so when I look at this game against Seattle, I know that they threw the ball a ton last week, but all the 49ers players have said, we expect to see a heavy dose of Kenneth Walker on Thursday. Do you agree?
The easy answer is yes, but then you start thinking about the chess game, right? And the game within the game, and that we saw Ryan Grubb trot out there and stand behind the mic yesterday and take one for the team and take all accountability for not running the football more the last couple of weeks, and particularly on Sunday when they dropped back on 88% of their offensive plays. They're number one in the NFL overall through 5 games at, I think it's 72%. Pass rate. It's crazy, especially considering that they spent the offseason, Mike Macdonald did, telling us that part of their identity was going to be in a very Pete Carroll-like fashion, running the football, being physical on offense and dictating terms. And so, to see what they've done, I likened it last week to watching a Mike Leach, Washington State University offense during his time there, like the late, great Mike Leach, where he just was allergic to running the football. And so here, they come out and, they lose a game that they probably should have won and still had opportunities to win, even with all the issues they had Sunday. And they're talking about, Mike Macdonald's talking about how we have to get Ken Walker the ball more. And Ryan Grubb comes out and says, I need to do a better job at that. And so are you then just going to turn around from the opening kickoff on Thursday and just try to pound the rock 2 out of 3 times when the 49ers are expecting that? I expect there to be some gamesmanship. And I don't think they're going to come out and look like the Seahawks did in the Dallas wildcard game in whatever year that was, 17 or 18. I think that disappointed so many people with the game plan. It's not going to be run on first down, second down, try to throw it on third. But I think they're looking for more balance there, certainly.
I think they should come out and run it. If I were the Seahawks, that's exactly what I would do. The 49ers defense is not good. It's banged up. They missed tackles. I know people keep saying 12 tackles. Fox had it at 14 tackles during the game with 3 minutes to go. And most of those tackles came in the second half. James Conner had 6 carries for 9 yards in the first half, and he finished with like 86 yards on the day. So it all came in the second half.
Yeah.
I would pound the ball if I were the Seahawks, and then I would use Geno Smith. Who cares if you run it 2 straight times? If you get to third down against this Niners defense, you're going to have no problem converting. Their defense is one of the 3 worst in the league on third down. They are awful. That's exactly what I would do if I was Seattle.
Well, they need to try to do that because, it's just a snowball effect of negativity after that. If you're not running the football, you're first of all, you're not establishing the mindset up front in an offensive line that needs to come together. Right? So you've got to pass that mindset, pass every single time. But also, it's just there's no play action game off of that. You're leaving Geno on an island with a team that still struggles at times to pass protect. And you're going up against a guy like Nick Bosa. It's a recipe for disaster if you don't even try to be running the football. And then on top of that, you have one of the talented running backs in the game. It's not like you're trying to do something that you're not equipped to do well. They are. And I'd actually like to see them use both backs in the backfield at the same time at times with Zach Charbonnet as well. And we've seen glimpses of that, never any sustained examples of that. They got to do something. You can't just put it on Geno's shoulders, let him drop back 80% of the time at a spread and empty like they have been doing and expect that to work against that 49er defense, even as banged up as they are.
Has Geno Smith evolved or improved as a passer since he became the Seahawks starting quarterback?
Absolutely. For me, something happened about halfway through the season last year. Not long after that game in Cincinnati where he was just, I don't know what was going on that day, but he was just blatantly missing wide open receivers downfield for what would have been huge plays and touchdowns. Something clicked for him about halfway through last season in terms of his processing, his internal clock, getting the ball out quicker, and his movement in the pocket and his sense of where the rush is coming from and his ability to move around and keep plays alive. To this point, he was 7th going into this week. I'm not sure what the overall standings now as far as getting the ball off quickly. And then this week, he was the quickest in not only in the NFL, but also in his career. It's just over 2.1 seconds he's getting rid of the football. And this is, taking into account the fact that Ryan Grubb wants to take shots down the field. He's known for that. They're looking to create explosive plays. There's something that did happen. I think evolves the great word for it. I appreciate you using that. We all assume that players are who they are after a certain amount of time in the league. And I think it's one of the reasons that people, so many people still, even among the Seahawks fan base, refuse to really get on the Geno Smith bandwagon and believe that he's a competent starting quarterback just because they can't shake those preconceived notions. He's a better quarterback now than he was a year ago. And he was a better quarterback last year, the last 7 games in particular, than he was the year before. It's fun to watch. But there's one thing he's missing since he took over the starter here after the Russell Wilson trade. He doesn't have that signature win. He doesn't have that win against a really good team in an important game in a big moment. And this is probably his best opportunity to get that. He hasn't played as badly against the 49ers the last 3 years that some people think, but he hasn't played well either.
Seems like the 49ers are just giving those signature wins away to other teams. They gave one of the Rams. They gave one of the Cardinals last week. I'm tired of being that team that everybody else gets the signature win against. Like, pretty soon it's going to not be a signature win from teams because the Niners are just going to have so many losses. They're going to be a bad team. Yeah. But anyway, let me tell you how I would attack the Seahawks if I were the 49ers. And you tell me if that makes sense or if I should go a different way. And feel free to tell me I'm an idiot because, let's be honest, I am. If I were the Niners, I would pound the ball against the Seahawks. This is their 3rd game in 11 days. The Seahawks defense has been on the field for over an hour of game time the last 2 weeks. If I were the 49ers, I would run it on 1st down, run it on 2nd down, run it on 3rd down. And the only time I would pass, I would use play action pass, and that would be it. Because I think the Seahawks are going to wear down over the course of this game. It might not work early, but I think it will work in the second half. Just like it did with Arizona, who ran the ball against the Niners in the heat on Sunday. Does that make sense to you as someone that knows this team inside and out?
Absolutely, because that's where their weakness is. And until a team proves that they can fix that weakness, you have to continue to attack it. And in the last 2 games, we've seen 2 teams attack it differently and still have success. The Giants spread the field out. And they kind of operated with that quick passing game with Daniel Jones, although he did have a couple of explosive plays down the field. But they spread the Seahawks out and put stress, in particular, on those inside linebackers and those edge players to maintain and pick the right gaps and stay true to their assignments. The week before, what the Lions did is there was a lot of 12 personnel. They ran a lot of 2 tight end stuff with balanced formation, which creates more gaps along the offensive line, which creates more gaps have to be accounted for. And the Seahawks right now have struggled, some at the edge, but also those inside linebackers in knowing which gaps to attack. And there were times on Sunday where you literally saw 2 and sometimes 3 players in the same gap. And that obviously opens up opportunities. So even if it's not there early, I would continue to pound it because the Seahawks have shown that they can slow the running game down for a drive or 2. But man, the explosive plays are there for teams to be had if you just stick with it.
All right. Now I want to ask a question I didn't think I would ever have to ask for a Kyle Shanahan coach team, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What would be the dumbest way for the 49ers to attack the Seahawks defense?
God, that's a really good question. I would say just so that's a tough one. I would say that I would resist the temptation to dial back on being aggressive. And what I mean by that is you might think that because the Seahawks offensive line has struggled to protect Geno, that maybe you can get to him consistently with 4, drop 7 into coverage, try and create a turnover. I think even Geno's playing so well right now, and he sees the field so well, and he's so comfortable in this Ryan Grubb offense. And we feel like for the first time here in years and through a number of coordinators on offense that we have one that, despite the fact he's not running the football as much as we would hope that he would, he's able to scheme receivers open. And some of his play design has really been effective. And it just meshes so perfectly with what Geno does that I think he could have success throwing down the field, at least in that mid-range area, even if you drop 7 into coverage. And again, he's so good at moving around in the pocket. If he does feel a little bit of pressure, I would resist that temptation. I would still send extra rushers at him. I would still try to not rattle him necessarily, but there are guys on that offensive line who have really, really struggled with power, and they haven't been able to handle power. It's not so much speed on the edge that's beating us. It's guys just blowing our interior offensive line and even our tackles, especially the right tackle, back into the pocket and disrupting the pocket. And so I would be aggressive, and I would blitz, and I would try to get to Geno. I think your odds are better there.
And what about for the Niners offense? What is the strength of the Seahawks defense?
Well, I would have said their ability to match up with receivers and cover them, but we're probably not going to have Reek Woolen on Thursday. That's a huge loss. Trey Brown has had moments in his 4-year career here where he's been effective. He's had game-changing type plays. He was a key contributor last year at Detroit, had a pick 6 and some sticky coverage. But he was terrible on Sunday. His worst showing as a pro. Really got torched by Darius Slayton on a number of occasions. And actually, when they went to Nehemiah Pritchett, the 5th round rookie draft pick out of Auburn this year, he looked better than Trey Brown did. And so I don't know that that's as much of a strength as we thought it was. Right now, I would try to be balanced. And that's what the 49ers are. And that's what scares me the most. Again, even with their struggles in going up against them, is they are built right now to perform in a way that the Seahawks are having trouble defending. And that's where you have to be almost assignment perfect. And you have to be just as sound in your run gaps as you are dropping into coverage. And our inside linebackers in particular right now have really struggled with that, as we've kind of tried to mix and match some of that through injury. So, I would just continue doing what they do best and resist the temptation to try and get away from your game plan because you think that there's one certain area of the Seahawks defense that you can pick on.
That's very interesting. Does it bother you that the 49ers have KJ Wright on the coaching staff, that one of your guys is actually a member of the Niners coaching staff right now?
I don't know, because it's a different scheme, right? If this was still a Pete Carroll team, yeah, he would have all sorts of insight into how, Carroll intends to game plan, or how he thinks he would game plan for the 49ers. But that being said, I mean, the 49ers saw up close and personal last year how the Ravens would defend them with Mike Macdonald. And I heard Brock Purdy this week say they've watched that tape a ton. I think he said he's watched it at least 3 times himself, and that they have an idea of how they're going to attack them because they've seen a lot of similarities, as you would expect, in how they're game planning this year in Seattle with that Macdonald scheme. That's the thing that worries me the most. They've had a little bit of exposure to that. And the fact that if you look around the league, not everyone running that scheme, that Macdonald scheme this year, of which there's 4 other teams doing it, is having success, including the Ravens, who are struggling defensively with a lot of those same players that Macdonald succeeded with. So, not really, other than KJ's a tremendous coach, and he's probably going to have some words in that locker room to get those guys fired up for sure.
Well, they need the help. I also went back and watched that Ravens game yesterday just to kind of go back and see. Craziest thing about it to me was Brock threw 3 picks in the first half, in the first quarter, I think, and the Niners went into halftime down by 1 score, which is incredible. It just speaks to the team that they had last year. But rewatching the game, I saw some common things from Brock Purdy that I think apply to him, not just in that game, but in general as a quarterback. In that game and in general, when Brock gets in trouble, most of his interceptions come on short passes to the middle of the field. There were a couple of picks in that game, honestly, that I thought were just bad luck, that weren't his fault. One of them was tipped up on a screen to Deebo Samuel. Another one was another ball that popped into the air. Okay. But then he had a couple other picks that were just hideously bad. And it comes from him forcing stuff. He gets caught up in the moment sometimes. What happened on that first drive against the Ravens, they hit a big play to Kittle, I think for like 60 or 70 yards over the middle. He broke a tackle. He drove down the field. Next pass, Brock drops back, and he just forces the ball into the end zone, and the Ravens safety just slides over, intercepts it, easiest interception of his life. After the game, Brock Purdy said, we made a big play to Kittle and I was trying to force it. I wanted to capitalize on the momentum. He gets caught up in that. He gets caught up in sort of the emotions and the feeling of the game. So if that is, if this game starts to either get away from the 49ers a little bit and he feels pressure to make a play, or if the Niners are rolling a little bit, Brock Purdy is going to give you an opportunity to take away the football because he goes away from doing the things that make him successful, which was delivering the ball on target and on time.
Well, Seahawks haven't taken the ball away this year. It's been one of the issues on defense. They had the 2 picks week 1 against Bo Nix, but they were very indicative and what you would expect of, rookie quarterback playing his first game in the NFL on the road. They were those they were gift interceptions, just bad reads, bad throws. We don't expect that from Brock Purdy, and he's played well against us. I think 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions the last 3 games. So the key is anytime you face a quarterback is obviously getting pressure. I'm not sure how equipped the Seahawks are going to be to do that on Thursday because, yet again, I know you guys are too, dealing with a lot of injuries up front. We thought we were getting Uchenna Nwosu back last week. He played 21 snaps coming back from that knee injury. Then he hurts his thigh. Now he's on injured reserve. We're going to miss him for at least the next 4 games. Boye Mafe, I think, is on track to play on Thursday. We didn't have him Sunday. He's our best pressure player. But then Derek Hall is banged up on the other side too. And so you're down to, Trevis Gibson and probably a practice squad elevation on the edge. And we got Leonard Williams back last week, but we still don't have Byron Murphy. And so I don't know that we're as equipped as we would hope to be going up against the 49ers and trying to force things, force Brock Purdy out of his comfort zone. Now, even if we do, then the element, has been we can't tackle quarterbacks. And we're letting guys get out of the grasp and make plays. Happened a number of times with Daniel Jones on Sunday. It happened against Jacoby Brissett in that game against the Patriots. So even when we do get home, we're not finishing the play and bringing the quarterback down. And Brock Purdy, I remember this even from his freshman year at Iowa State playing against my WSU Cougars in the Alamo Bowl. You let that guy move around and he can be even more dangerous. He's really creative. I don't think he gets enough credit for that, but that concerns me, certainly.
Well, he's moving around more than ever this year. He's got the highest time to throw of anybody in the league. Now, some of that is due to the fact that they're rushing 3, so he just has more time in general. But he has shown when he scrambles, he's incredibly hard to tackle in space. Mm-hmm. He made a couple of defenders from Arizona look absolutely silly on Sunday. Like if the Seahawks struggle tackling quarterbacks, that is not about to improve this week.
Now, one thing that I'd like to ask you about is what's going on with the second half issues? Because if there's one thing that might be a path for the Seahawks to be in this game and come out of this with a win is, Seahawks have had a number of examples through 5 games of poor first halves, especially on offense, and then being able to figure some things out and come out and be more effective in the second half. Whereas the 49ers have given up so many points in the third and fourth quarter that seems very uncharacteristic of them. What do you account for that?
How coaches always talk about we have to play complementary football, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the 49ers are playing complementary football right now. The problem is it's losing complementary football. And what I mean by that is every time this year that they have had a chance to go out and just step on an opponent and just grind out and snuff out any hope of coming back in a game, they haven't done it. They've left the door wide open. So, by perfect example, you're up by 2 scores. You have a chance to go down, right? Score a touchdown, make it a 3-score game, and really tilt the game script in your favor. The Niners either get no points or they get a field goal. Their red zone, they're 30th or 29th, I think, in red zone offense this year. They're terrible. And the compliment, quote unquote, to that is they're also turning the football over. So they're not ever getting that last push to put the game away, and they're leaving the door open, and then they're giving the other team the football and the chance to go steal the game away late.
Feels like that's going to be a big key to this game. The 49ers moving the ball between the 20s as well as any team in the league.
Yes.
But one of those, as you said, 30th in red zone percentage. Seahawks are on defense. The one thing they have done well is they're just outside the top 10 in fewest amount of touchdowns given up in the red zone. It would seem like maybe something has to give there. Also puts a little bit of pressure on, I know, Jake Moody's out this week and you had to bring in a new kicker, he's probably going to get a lot of action.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan loves to kick field goals between 20 and 30 yards. Jake Moody had 6 kicks between 20 and 29 yards. And I keep telling people the way to calculate field goal yardage is to add, you go, how far away are you from the goal line? And then you add 17 yards. So if you're kicking a field goal that's 20 yards, you're pretty damn close to the goal line. But Kyle never goes for it. He loves to shuffle out the field goal kicker and kick that field goal. And that's another thing that's leaving the door open for teams to come back. When you get field goals instead of touchdowns, you're leaving the door open. And the 49ers do not have the defense this year to be able to do that. They did in years past because they had so many good players on defense and the scheme was good and it was working. They don't have that this year. They have not been able to get a critical stop in a must-stop situation in 2 years, honestly. We saw it last week against Arizona. We saw it against the Rams. We saw it in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Critical third down, critical fourth down. They simply don't have that team anymore. It's the offense that has to close teams out this year, and they haven't been able to get it done because of all the problems in the red zone.
It's interesting that we're sitting here talking about this great matchup or a matchup we all anticipate and means so much to each of these teams. And we're trying to convince each other whose team is worse right now. Like this is not what I was expecting.
Yeah, it's I hate to be, I don't want to be negative. And people always say, oh, you're so negative about the team. I don't want to be. But right now, the problems are the problems. Now, look, if the 49ers get a win, I'm sure the Seahawks are saying the same thing, right? 49ers get a win. You're first place in the division. You can maybe start to get back on track. You get a win in the conference, a win in the division. Okay, that's good. But you probably feel differently. I feel if the 49ers lose, they're not going to the playoffs. Like they're going to need major help to go to the playoffs. This is absolutely a must-win game for the 49ers. Nick Bosa called it a must-win game. Fred Warner called it a must-win game. That they have to get it done.
It does seem like it's more so for the 49ers than it is the Seahawks. That if the Seahawks lose this game, they're, the tiebreaker being your favor, but we play again. So it'd still be tied for the division lead with a little bit of a break coming out of those 3 games in 11 days. You get a week and a half before you travel to Atlanta, but the schedule gets a lot tougher as well. It's, you did say that to me before we started recording. And my answer to that was, someone has to win this division. Right. And nobody is stepping up to get it. I still would be very, very concerned about the 49ers, even if the Seahawks find a way to win tomorrow. Right. Jeez. It's here.
I know. It comes fast. Dan, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. There's nobody I trust more to tell me about the Seattle Seahawks than Dan Viens and the Seahawks Forever podcast. If people want to check out more of your work, more on this matchup, how can they find you?
At Seahawks Forever on Twitter. That's where I post everything. So you get an idea of when new episodes go up. And then the YouTube channel is Seahawks Forever with Dan Viens. And then you can find it on all the audio platforms as well.
Thank you very much for the time, sir. Terrible luck this Thursday, but thank you.
Same. Right back at you. Always good chatting with you.